everybody. It is Stacy. Welcome to my day 26 of Red, but also a great episode we're going to have on a heart stroke survivor, and she's going to talk about her journey and her story, Mrs. Midwest International. So I'm excited to have her on. So stay with us right here on Pageantry Now. Hey everybody, it's Stacy Simpson. I am the host of Pageantry Now. Super excited to have all of you here. We are all about positivity and pageantry and being able to highlight the amazing things that title holders are doing using a crown and a sash to change the world, whatever world it is. If it's locally, if it's statewide, if it's nationally, if it's internationally, we want the stories and the why. We want to encourage you to be part of the conversation. So please, if you're watching, just go into chat, make comments, ask questions, be part of this experience, because with our crownies, which is so important, we want to be able to make you part of this. And just make sure that you keep it PC, because we do have teenagers and actually younger that watch us. So we want to make sure that everything is appropriate. And I will pop the questions up or the little, hey, congratulations, whatever it is. But before we go into any of that stuff, let's see who we are meeting today. Let's see who it is. Here we go. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
How are you tonight?
I am fantastic, Stacy. Thank you so much for having me. I feel very honored to be with you and all of your live guests this evening.
Fantastic to have you. Okay, so introduce yourself to us, please.
Sure. My name is Natalie Poli, and I am Mrs. Midwest International 2022.
Awesome. Yay. And we are in the Red Sisters. So I see you are wearing red. And as I said in the intro, that you are a heart disease. Well, not even disease, actually. Well, it is disease, but heart disease and stroke survivor. So we are in the middle of Red Month, the month of February, and then Stroke Month is in May. So being able to share your story and share what you have gone through and your journey is going to be super important and a big part of your platform. But before we get into all of that stuff, I'm going to ask you the very important question that starts our show off always. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like frogs? Why or why not?
Actually, I do not like frogs. So a story about frogs with me is I had to dissect them when I was in 7th grade. And I had an extremely difficult time doing that, knowing that this animal had passed in order for me to find out more about it. So I do not like frogs for that reason.
I understand. I actually, when I was in biology, I refused to dissect a frog because I loved them so much. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I will take the F on this, because I was like, I'm not going to do that. And my science teacher was like, you're going to have to do one eventually. I'm like, nope, not doing biology for the rest of my life. So I'll just say no, thank you.
They're
Like,
cute as fairy tales, but when I think or see about a real frog, it definitely brings me right back to 7th grade.
oh no, I'm so sorry. Well, and I totally understand. So there you go. All right, so let's first of all tell us a little bit about your title and your system, so that we know a little bit more about the Mrs. International system. We have had on a couple of your title holders, including our reigning Mrs. International. But just for those of us that are not familiar or may just be watching for the first time, can you tell us just a little about the areas of competition and what's going on from there?
Sure. Absolutely. So I'm very honored to be part of the international system. One of the reasons why I chose it is because it is very much centered around your platform, or for those of us that may not be sure of what that might be, but that is your passion and your mission and what you want to bring to the international system. It really is about celebrating the accomplishments of today's women. And that is what is so amazing about all of the individual title holders that will be joining us in July for the Mrs. International 2022 pageant. 50% of our score is our interview and onstage question. 25% is our fitness wear. So just wanting to see that you embody the whole healthy women. And then also 25% is us in our evening gown competition, which allows us to have a moment with our spouses.
Yay! Yes, I do. I do own an international crown somewhere from a very long time ago. So, hey, Yang, how are you? Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. And I do think that what the values of the system are super important, and the idea that you really are supporting your platform or what you're passionate about, and that's what drew me to it many years ago, and I'm sure that is what makes it so special for you as well. So with that being said, let's talk about what your platform is, and then we'll talk about your why. So
Absolutely. So, my platform, Stroke of Insights, was centered around the fact that I am a stroke survivor and I was born with congenital heart disease, but it went undiagnosed until I was the age of 29. So, I created Stroke of Insights so I could educate and advocate for those born with congenital heart disease and promote early detection and intervention. My heart disease went undetected not only for 29 years, but I also had two holes in my heart and an atrial septum aneurysm. So it's really special for me not only to talk about stroke survival, but also the fact that it's so important we have all of the processes placed within our states, within the international, just worldwide system, because it really affects more than just us here locally. This is a worldwide underfunded disease that we definitely need to look more into research on and advocacy. And that's why I chose it. It's a personal story for me, but it also affects 1 in 100 infants born every day.
well, and heart disease is the number one killer of human beings in the world, which everyone assumes it's cancer, and it isn't. And the reason that I go red is because I'm a survivor of heart failure. And the reason that the Go Red campaign started was because not only were people believing that mostly heart disease was men, but
Mhm,
there just wasn't enough information on how to be able to help women and treat women, and
mhm,
actually get adequate research done as well. So for you, it's a double whammy, because then you're also adding stroke to that as well. So um, I mean, and it really is, and I am finding out, because every year I do this. I wear red every single day, the month of February, and this is my third year of doing it. But every day I try to share different stories and more information
mhm,
about the effects of heart disease and stroke have on women, and I'm finding that more and more that it is so underfunded, undereducated, underdeveloped. So that is a huge portion of why I do what I do as well. So,
mhm.
um, so let's talk about pageantry and why you got into this crazy thing called pageantry. When did you get into this crazy thing called pageantry?
It actually started for me back in high school. I joined a local pageant here just as part of graduating from high school. It was called the Rose Queen pageant. Now it's called the Rose Ambassador pageant, and I'm actually part of that committee. So that's been really exciting to give back to an organization in which my pageantry life started. I was in the Miss Illinois USA pageant when I was in college. I went to the University of Iowa, and that was very exciting. But it was December of 2020, and my former Chicago Lovable choreographer, because I was a Chicago Lovable for the Bulls for 2 years back in my early 20s, she gave me a call and she said, Natalie, you need to do the Mrs. International pageant. And I said, it has been over 20 years since I have done a pageant. There is no way I'm ready for this. And she said, but it's all about your platform. I said, I don't have a platform. And she said, yes, you do. She said, for years, you've been advocating for stroke awareness, stroke education, congenital heart disease awareness and education. She said, you have a story you tell every day just over your social media platforms and your interactions with people. And I was doing a little community service here and there when I could find time. I was actually raising my 3 boys on my own at that time. And so I said, okay, so here I am. I had a month and a half to get ready, and I joined the Mrs. Illinois International System. It's been a fantastic experience. And this past year, I actually stepped in to take over for Mrs. Illinois International. I was first runner up last year, and it was needed for me to step in at the time as first runner up. So I did, because that's pageant rules. And in turn, I was very blessed with our wonderful Illinois director, Miss Mandy Roxy. Randy definitely was fantastic in offering me the Mrs. Midwest International title. And this has been just a fantastic experience to be alongside Mrs. Illinois this year, Miss Illinois, Miss Teen Illinois, who I have to give a shout out to. She actually just competed in the first ever Illinois High School Association girls state wrestling meet and won third place in the state. So I am alongside some very amazing women, and Randy has been just exceptional to bring me alongside as a bonus queen. And so it's been fantastic to take what I'm doing within the international system and use it as a megaphone to just uplift my advocacy for those born with congenital heart disease.
Yeah, that is an amazing journey for you to have gone, from the Miss to the Ms, well, Mrs, and then, now, and
It all
so
runs
you are,
together. Miss.
Mrs, Ms. I know,
I think I
I'm like,
said Mrs. and I meant Miss, and yeah.
yeah, no, and I mean, I do it too. So it's like I've gone from teen to Miss to Mrs. to Ms. to Mrs. to, we just stay in it as long as we can. But when you have a story,
Right,
and honestly, that's the thing, because you not only live what you I mean, clearly your experience and having your heart disease and then having the stroke as well. Hi, thanks, Ralph. We appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Stay blessed, my love. I appreciate you being here. But you also work for an organization that helps to build your platform. So this is really part of what you do. So let's talk a little bit about how that kind of goes hand in hand with um, being a wife, a mom, and then a educator of heart disease and stroke as well.
I'm very lucky because during the day I'm in the education field. So as an instructional coach here in Roselle, Illinois, I'm able to make an impact with our teachers and students every day. So education has just been within me, and I enjoy not only professional adult learning but also teaching kids as well. I was a second and third grade teacher for many years. It's interesting that partnering with the PIC Society, which does stand for Pediatric Interventional Cardiovascular Society, has really allowed me to take my advocacy to a new level. My cardiologist, Dr. Hijazi, did my procedure at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And he not only pioneered my procedure, the transcatheter closure procedure, but he also pioneered that alongside Dr. Amplatz. And I have 2 Amplatzer devices in my heart. So that's definitely a mouthful to speak, but both of them are phenomenal. And Dr. Amplatz unfortunately passed in 2019. But being the senior patient advocate of the PIC Society has given me the opportunity to speak with physicians worldwide about what we need in the field. So I'm trying to partner and marry the organizations that I do have relationships with, because there's something in it that continues to build, as I called, 3 parts of the heart. So the PIC Society allows me to partner with the physicians across the globe and worldwide to find out what they're seeing in their countries that they need. Some recent interviews were with doctors in India, Japan, Argentina, and those were written in Congenital Cardiology Today through the PIC Society that people can reference. If you just go to Congenital Cardiology Today, you'll see those from last summer. So that provides me an opportunity to be the senior patient advocate for the PIC Society and work with the physicians. I'm also a Mended Hearts Action Network champion. There's 28 of us nationally, and that provides me the opportunity to speak with our local and nation, regional, all encompassing representatives and senators to talk with not only them, but also their healthcare staffers on what we currently are seeing in terms of patient care, intervention, education, where congenital heart disease is concerned. And then I'm also working with Conquering CHD, and we'll be bringing some of our care bags into the Children's Hospital in Chicago. It's packed with just essentials for patients and families, blankets, necessities they might need, toothbrushes, mugs, things that are just going to provide a little bit of comfort while they're staying with their child in the hospital. So it's 3 parts to the heart, as I like to call it. I'm able to work with a few different organizations to really piece together that all-encompassing advocacy work that I do. But it's a community piece. It's working with the legislators, the representatives, and the senators, not only on the state level, but nationally, and then working with the PIC Society that allows me to speak with physicians worldwide. Dr. Hijazi is now in Qatar, so I don't get to see him in person much. I see one of his associates at Rush University in Chicago, but it's just been a blessing that the sport of pageantry has allowed me to make all of these partnerships and hopefully use the sport of pageantry as a megaphone to creating more education and advocacy for those born with congenital heart disease like me, because my goal is for other people, their stroke of insight, not to be having a stroke in order to realize they were born with congenital heart disease. And I didn't know it until I had my stroke. So for me, it's essential to try and bring the education and the advocacy to the forefront so that we're focusing on what we're doing within the newborn screening to make the early detection.
That totally is life changing. And certainly, you don't want to be able to go through having a stroke to be able to
Yeah.
find out that you have a congenital heart disease or defect. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that experience, because you were 29 years old when you had your stroke. So let's talk about, were you able to get TPA? Was there TPA around then? Like how did that happen? Because I know so many women, specifically because we really put everybody else ahead of ourselves, and we blow things off. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't think about, oh, I've got a really bad headache, and you know could it be something more? And I just had an incident, a week and 10 days ago, not no a week, not even 10 days ago, where one of my eyes was dilated and the other one wasn't, and immediately
Oh,
I knew I needed to go to the hospital. But most
you
people,
okay, Stacy?
they thought I had a stroke. Yeah, they thought I had a stroke. So
Wow.
it turns out that there was no permanent damage to my brain, but I do have an issue with my carotid artery, which we didn't know about. But again, because of these conversations that I have,
Mhm.
and I just not even 12 hours before, we had done our heart and stroke edition that I've done annually now for the last couple of years. And Jerry Ward, who is also a stroke survivor, was talking about how her experience was. And that's what my brain just went to when I saw my eye dilate. I went, oh my gosh, that could be one of the warning signals. So let's talk about
Mhm.
what your warning signals were and what happened with you, because that's very important for us to share that information as well.
Yes, I would be very happy to share it. So during the day, the day that I had my stroke, I was feeling a little off, but I had a 9-week old. My middle son Dylan was 9 weeks at the time. My older son Cole was 2.5. He was having his toddler tantrum, right? A typical day in motherhood with a 2.5-year-old and a newborn. I had a little bit of a headache, but it wasn't anything that struck me as out of the ordinary. I took all three of us and our dog at the time, Barley, to the vet early evening. I was driving us home, got home. Dylan was sleeping, and my mother in law at the time said, "You never wake a sleeping baby." So Dylan was in the carrier. I left him sleeping in there. I put him in the dining room. It was peaceful. My husband at the time was not home yet, and I went upstairs to give Cole a bath. So we finish in the bath. At that point in time, my husband's home. It's a little bit before 7 o'clock. And Cole really enjoyed, like most toddlers, playing in the bathtub after all the water's drained out, but they pretend they're sliding from the back. So we played that sliding game a couple times. And I said, "Okay, come out. Mom's going to dry you off. I'm going to go get a pull up." He was in pull ups at the time. I walked just a few steps away to his bedroom, and we had a bookshelf that had some books on it and pictures, but also I had a stack of pull ups. So I reach for the pull ups and I'm looking at my hand. And the next thing I see is the entire stack of pull ups start falling to the side. At that point, I begin to fall to the ground.
Wow.
So I realize something's not right. I crawl into the hallway, and our home had an open floor plan. So once I got into the hallway, I could actually oversee into our family room, and my husband was in the kitchen beginning dinner. So I kind of crawl as close as I could to the bathroom door, and I yelled for his name. And he came upstairs, and I said, "I think I'm having a stroke." Why I thought that, I still don't know to this day. So for me, there wasn't
So
a
uncommon.
really great sign. It was, I tell the story as I was fine 1 minute, and the next minute I fall to the floor. So
Wow.
he comes upstairs. I'm able to speak. I'm really weak, but you could tell I'm slow. And I said, "Just take care of Cole, take him to his room, do his bedtime routine." I was a stay at home mom, so I was very structured in their routines. That was my job. It was to be their mom and to take care of them. So I said, "I'll be okay. I'm going to go lay down." We thought maybe I was just passing out. Newborn just gave birth 9 weeks beforehand, toddler, you're tired.
Toddler,
So,
you're tired, everything that's like, yeah, because there's no chaos when you've got
no,
two kids in diaper, well, even to put
not a,
pull-ups
yeah,
in your
right.
home.
Exactly. So I lay in our bed and I just realized there was something not right. So back then it was 2006. We didn't have smartphones. There was no press contacts in your phone and call your physician. I actually had to get myself downstairs to get my physician's card out of my wallet. I feel ancient now, but I did. And so I remember reaching for the door handle and looking at the door handle, and I see my hand trying to turn, but it's not touching the handle. All of this I explain as a very out of body experience. I remember it, but I don't remember actually living it. That is really just a hard concept for me. And if you've had a stroke, you know what I'm talking about. It's, you see yourself doing these things or trying to do all these things, but they're not really happening. So I must have fallen down the stairs. And my mom continues to say to this day, "I can't believe you had Brian in the other room." Because I was,
Wow.
that Brian was my first husband and gave me my three beautiful boys. And so he really was part of the reason why I'm here today. He took care of Cole as I asked him to, did exactly what I told him. And so I make my way downstairs, but I must have fallen because I remember sliding and holding onto the railing. I had some bruising the next day. So I call my physician's office and I hear them say, and I'll just use XYZ to protect their privacy. I hear them say XYZ answering service. And in my mind, I'm saying clear as day, "Please have the physician on call paged." And they're saying, "Hello, hello." And I'm getting frustrated because I know what I'm saying in my mind. I'm asking for the on call physician to be paged. So I hang up. I then dial my in law's number. I have no idea why I did that. Well, the next day I find out they thought it was my older son, Cole, my 2.5-year-old, hitting speed dial because speed dial was a thing back then.
Right.
So they're thinking he's calling and hanging up, but it's really me. Finally, so many minutes have passed and I dial 911. And I hear 911 dispatch. And in my mind, again, I'm saying, please send help. And the call just ends. So shortly after that, I make my way back into the hallway. My husband's there holding Cole at the time. Dylan is sleeping through all of this. It's very uneventful for him. And a police officer comes to the door. I actually was just able to reunite with him last month and have some photos of that, him and I reuniting on my Instagram page at Mrs. Midwest International. It was very, very emotional. He is a sergeant now in the detectives division. His name is Sean Lewakowski, and I owe a big part of myself being here today because of him. He was a rookie. He came to the door. He came in. He handed me a pen. He said, Natalie, write down what you're trying to say. And at that point, I had no speech. I pick up the pen and I try to start writing, and the pen falls to the ground because I have little to no feeling in the right side of my body. And so immediately he radios to the dispatcher saying, please send the medics now. We have a young 29-year-old female, 9 weeks postpartum, and she is having a stroke. So oddly enough, today I am married to a wonderful law enforcement officer. We married 2.5 years ago. So I still feel like we're a newlywed. So we have this big blended family of 5. And it's ironic that he saves people every day. And I have this amazing story of this officer that came to my door. But it's very scary when you don't know what you're going through and you don't know what's happening to you. And I think back, my ex-husband and I were 29 years old with 2 young kids. One could
Right.
argue we didn't
Yeah.
really know much at all. So,
Certainly not what you would have anticipated. And that is one of um so you had a congenital heart defect that you were born with,
mm,
but
yes.
one of the issues that's been happening, and it's coming out more and more often, is that women that are postpartum are
Hmm.
more at risk to possibly have a stroke as well. So that just is like compounding everything all together at the same time. And actually, even though I knew you already had a heart defect, my brain went to, oh my gosh, was this caused by something postpartum?
Well, and it's interesting you bring that up because recently the American Heart Association released a study in strokes with women under the age of 35. And I had that opportunity to partner with the American Heart Association here and NBC5 Chicago in doing this feature story because I was under the age of 35 and I was postpartum. And one of the things Dr. Song at Rush University Medical Center here said is that we need to look into why women are having these because we are seeing them in postpartum women. Is it something hormonal? Is it because we have more blood volume going through our body? It's a very interesting topic that definitely even she agrees Dr. Sung needs more research. But one of the things that was definitely happening to me was that I had 2 PFOs and an atrial septum defect in my heart. So the blood was already flowing through the incorrect channels. Now add on to that I'm 9 weeks postpartum, you have an increased level of blood flow happening. And my heart environment was just fantastic for a
Right.
blood clot to form. It was a fantastic environment because there's more blood there, it's flowing through the incorrect channels already. And then the theory is that the blood clot traveled from my heart to the left side of my brain that controls the speech and language and feeling in the right side of your body. But it was a little bit of a mystery because I had no residual damage and no brain damage.
Wow.
I have no idea why God chose to save me. I hope it's to be talking to people like you today, Stacy, because it's emotional. You,
Wow.
I have big survivor's guilt, and
No, never have survivors guilt. Actually, Jerry just popped in. Hi, Jerry. How are you? Thank
hi,
you. So
Jerry.
happy that you're here. Yeah, don't. I mean,
It
I
is
have I have survivor's guilt because I am
that.
a three time cancer survivor, but I was given 8 weeks to live 25 years ago. So
Wow.
on September 11th, 1996.
Wow.
So I go through that, but and it's hard. And I know it's hard to say don't have survivor's guilt. It is one of those
Yeah.
things that you can't really get away from. And you feel like, I mean, I know like with Jerry's story too, like she had a massive stroke and it did have long lasting effects. And she still continues to deal and struggle with that. And I just think it speaks volumes about the women that you are, that you go forward and share your stories and want people to be better educated and use that story to be able to do that. And I think that's one of the magic parts about pageantry is that we we really are in this for the heart of service, and really, and I don't say changing the world using a crown and a sash as a thing, kitschy thing to say. I really mean that so many title holders really are changing their
Mm-hmm.
world. Oh, Jerry, thank you. She's a survivor's guilt is a real
Oh,
thing. Oh, we
it
love
is.
you.
It
You
is
deserve to
so
be
real.
alive too. But it is
Yeah.
so real, and it's
Mm-hmm.
uh, it is one of those things that I know that you know in any situation,
Mm-hmm.
not just when I hear about cancer, when I hear about heart disease, it's if I hear a tragic story of loss and I think, oh my gosh, like why did I get chosen to be this person to share my
Yeah.
story? So, and you are
Exactly.
exactly, you're speaking
It's
it, and
hard.
yeah,
It is
so
just hard. I think you think to yourself, why me? I do. There are times where my mom will say, that's not true. But there are times where I feel like, am I slurring my words? It's a real thing. You really do worry about that. And I don't know why there was no brain damage on the MRI. It's a huge mystery. They were wheeling me up for my MRI and I see my OBGYN and he's like, what are you doing here, Natalie? He's like, you just had a baby 9 weeks ago. I said, well,
right.
I just had a stroke. So
Well,
here I am living my best life
that's
at
great.
Advocate Good Shepherd Hospital.
The
I
the
mean,
doctor that diagnosed me, sorry, I didn't mean to, that diagnosed me
no,
with COVID when I went into the ER last Friday was the same doctor that diagnosed me with COVID. And she's like, wait, you're back. And I'm like, yeah, it's not COVID this time.
it's
Look at my
not.
eyes.
Well, it's scary because I do feel people ask me, was there anything that you had, any residual damage? Now, to kind of back it up a little bit, they kept me for about 8 to 10 days in the hospital because they didn't know what happened. I had every miracle drug pumped in me, thank goodness, because of Sergeant Lewikowski and the amazing EMTs in Wakanda, Illinois. So,
Heroes.
heroes. I mean, that was huge in itself because you have a very, very short window of time to administer these very, very important pharmaceuticals to
Right.
break up any blood clot. It is just time is of the essence. But they didn't know what happened. So they did a full ultrasound from my hips to my ankles to see if I had a blood clot that originated in my legs. And but with that usually those clots go to your lungs, so that would be pulmonary. So they
Right.
pretty much wanted to just do it to rule it out. At that point I said, whatever. I'm 29. I'm in the
You're like,
cardiac.
okay, sure. Just what
I'm
yeah.
I'm in the cardiac ward. I would actually go out for coffee in the morning. And I remember I had this sweatshirt from Disney because I love Disney, and it said Tink, Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell was on the back, and every day the nurses would say, "Who are you here to see?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in that room over there. I'm just coming to get my coffee out here." I'm walking. The heart monitor was underneath the zip up sweatshirt,
Right.
so no one
Yeah.
could see it. But they did the procedure where they actually went down into my esophagus and did the internal ultrasound. They saw the two PFOs right away in the atrial septum defect. They did an echocardiogram. They did the MRI. They did numerous tests, but they weren't happy with just one result. They wanted to keep going. I think it was because I was just so young
Right.
and seeing this in someone. So I never, ever had any issues when I was younger, other than I distinctly remember when I danced for the University of Iowa. Go Hawkeyes. We circuit trained a couple times a week, and we would run 3 miles twice a week around around Kinnick Stadium. And I remember at times feeling like there was an elephant on my chest. I'm like looking at my friend next to me on the right, my friend next to me on the left, and I would think, why aren't they out of breath and crying through this like me? I just thought I was out of shape. I had been dancing since I was 3. Why I thought that I didn't know. I was a young 18, 19, 20-year-old, didn't know the difference. So that time kind of passed. I remember it when I was running specifically. Then I became a Chicago Lovable, and I remember running off the court one time, and my girlfriend would keep her inhaler underneath the base of the basketball hoop. So we come off the court, and I look at her and I grab her, and I'm shaking her palms, and I'm like, Kim, give me your inhaler. And she says, you don't even have asthma. I said, I cannot breathe. Give me that inhaler. I must have just had this
Wow.
look in my face. So then I do go to the doctor, and I said, there's got to be something wrong. I am having this, tightness in my chest when I'm dancing. I've been dancing since I was 3. I eat well. I'm in shape. I definitely work out. What's going on? They have me blow in the tube to test for asthma. And I was borderline. They said, oh, it could be athlete-induced asthma, Natalie. Here's an albuterol inhaler. No,
Yay.
it was so much more.
Yeah.
I lived another 8 years before the stroke. And had I had known when I was an infant, right, there's 1 in 100 born, that I was born with 2 holes in my heart and atrial septum aneurysm, my stroke of insight wouldn't have been my stroke. So that's why I do what I do. And like you said, we take these stories that happen to us, and there's so many. That's what I love about the international system. Women like Jerry, myself, even if it's not something that necessarily happened to you, it happened to a family member or a good friend. This
Yolanda
system,
has a huge story too. So, like, yeah.
it just really brings that advocacy, that education, that desire to bring a knowledge about your passion and your area of study, as I call it, to life. And when I had my stroke, I was getting my master's degree. And I remember looking at the doctor and I said, I have class on Thursday. So unless you tell me I'm going to have a heart attack on Thursday, I'm going to class. And my ex-husband looked at me and he's like, oh, she's serious. So I brought him to class with me. I got released on a Tuesday from the hospital. I brought him to class with me on Thursday night. My in-laws watched my 2 boys, and I had to bring the injections of Lovenox, because I had to have those in my abdomen, and I couldn't do it myself. I don't know if
Right.
anybody's tried to give themselves that's listening an injection. I always say God bless our diabetes patients, because I could not do it. I had to do the last one because my husband was out of town, and that was challenging enough. But I had to do those shots of Lovenox until the Coumadin was
Kicked
regulated
in.
in my
Right.
system. And that
Yeah.
is a whole nother beast in itself. That is just very, very challenging. But one of the things I think is important, Stacy, to also know is that I was not even a candidate for the procedure that I had according to the FDA at the time. They wanted me to have 2 strokes or a stroke in reaction to the Coumadin in order to
Wow.
get the PFO devices. I could be part of a trial. I went to 2 different other hospitals and they said, we have a trial for you. And I said, nope, I'm not joining your trial. And I'm not stopping until I find a physician that is going to
I'll
give me
do
the
this.
devices I need. And I just kept going until I found Dr. Ajazi.
When I was, so my heart failure was caused by my original chemotherapy medication, which was a trial medication. So we
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what was going to happen, but um, and it was controlled for a year. I mean, I was running a marathon or training for a marathon when I started to have problems that
Mm-hmm.
actually showed the heart failure. But a year later, I was training for a triathlon and got hit by a truck
Oh,
riding my bicycle. So my heart function dropped to 10%. And they said, well, we're going to have to put you on a transplant list. There's just no way.
mm-hmm.
And a young 4th-year doctor, I've told this story many times, but I think it's important to bring this up, um, said, hey, we have a program here in Miami at the University of Miami that will inject stem cells into you to repair the damage to your heart. And I said, well, I don't have cancer anymore. My original tumor was attached to my heart. So, and it was the size of my hand. So it was pretty significant, but I was like, it's not cancer anymore. And he said, they are using stem cells to actually repair the heart. And
wow.
that was in 2012, on Valentine's Day, 2012. So I just had my
Oh,
anniversary, my 10-year anniversary.
congratulations.
Well, my husband, who was my boyfriend at that point, when I had a defibrillator that got put in, and my husband, while I was getting the defibrillator put in, they told him she's probably not going to survive. So he proposed, and we got married on February
Oh,
29th. So we only have an anniversary every 4 years, but technically in 2 days it'll be our anniversary. So, but it took 2 years of us going to the National Institute of Health, fighting or working with my doctor, with my cardiologist, the head of the program, to get me into the study, because women's heart sizes were not included in the study,
of course.
because almost all research is based on men and men's
Yeah.
size hearts. So I am grateful for the opportunity to actually have an exception that is named after myself, to be able to be in this program that has
Wow.
saved my life. Like, it has saved my life.
It's
Um,
crucial.
and it's so important that we are able to get funding for women's heart health, so that we can have the research programs that help to discover in postpartum, is it a clotting factor that's
Mhm.
causing this rise in strokes? Is there additional heart disease that comes out because of that? Like,
Right.
how can we find more and more studies and fund more studies so that we can be better helped as women? So,
Absolutely. And
and having a
it's
voice is important.
and having our voice. And it's interesting because I always think to myself, if there weren't women like you and I and others advocating for experiences that we've been through, who would be? Because it is a difficult, or
Right.
it's difficult just for physicians to try and do that. And that's what the physicians at the PIC Society say to me: Natalie, we're grateful for you, because we don't have the opportunity to be able to advocate in a way like someone like you
Right.
that's actually
Right.
been through it. Because it's so much different when a patient goes in front of the FDA and says, hey, listen, I'm that person you said no to.
Right.
I'm the person that
Exactly.
you said, that mother, that had I had not fought for myself, I would not have gone on to have my third son, Alec. So I'm here today because I fought to be here today. So I'm just grateful that I found a physician that happened to be right here in Chicago, that pioneered the procedure, and worked with the physician that pioneered the ASD devices, because that's exactly what I got. I got 2 atrial septum defect devices. I did not have to have open heart surgery, but that isn't what everyone goes through. Our babies are having open heart surgery.
Right.
So it's so essential that we continue to work towards the most invasive procedures. The research is just so crucial to what we're trying to advocate for.
Right. I know
Mhm.
that when they put in my stem cells, I ended up having to. They found a blockage to my heart, which I wouldn't have found out if I had not had the implantation. So I
Yeah.
ended up having to have a double bypass. But at that point, the discussion was the newer bypasses could be done, instead of having to have a full, uh, going through your chest, you could go through the side
Sure.
through your ribs, which I was like, okay, well, that would be really cool. Except I had such significant scar tissue from radiation from that, I wasn't a candidate. But so, I mean, like,
Mhm.
my open heart surgery took 12 hours. And he said of that, 4.5 hours was just cutting through scar tissue caused from the radiation. He said, you're pretty much a microwave steak in there. And I'm like, yay.
But look at, you're here and you're
Yeah.
strong and you're inspiring
Yeah, and
people like
you too.
me, right?
That's
I
so
know.
awesome.
But we have to lift each other up, right? That's what I say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
It
let's
doesn't
do
end with us.
Exactly, and we're changing the face of how women are seen in this
Hmm.
story, and heart health and stroke health, and being able to
Yes,
hopefully inspire doctors, researchers, the associations that we work with, so that we can help be able to move things forward so that other women don't
yes,
have the struggles that we have, which I think is so, so important. So
absolutely.
changing the world in a
Yeah,
way that you don't even think. So,
that's
all right,
right.
let's do something fun. This or
Okay.
that. So it'll be whether you choose this or that and why. So easy stuff. It's nothing too hard, but just to get out some of your personality, because we got really deep and very medical, and
Yeah,
people are going,
very medical.
"Whoa!" But I think it's important to have that conversation because it's
Yes,
important to your story. So,
yeah,
all right. So, all
thank you.
right. So, do you like? I'm surprised Kenzie's not on. I know she's not feeling good, but Kenzie will ask this
Oh,
question: do you like chocolate or vanilla, and why?
chocolate. I don't even know why. It's just great.
It just makes you feel good and happy.
It's
Well,
just
I mean,
good.
it
I don't
does
know.
release endorphins, so it is a good
Wow.
thing.
And it's even better if there's peanut butter in it.
Oh, I can't have peanut butter, but yeah, in the days when I
Yeah.
could, oh, I loved it. Oh gosh. So I agree. All right. So now in competition, do you
Okay.
prefer evening gown or swimsuit?
Ooh, I think evening gown. I just think there's something to be said for being in a gown that you feel represents you and what you embody.
Got it. It's your personality. So there you go.
Yeah.
And then interview or evening
Mhm.
gown.
Interview.
That was an easy one.
That was an easy one. I think that goes back to just having the journalism undergrad roots, but also just being able to share, right? Share the story, share a little bit about yourself. I just think there's something to be said for communication in between two people.
Awesome. All right.
Mhm.
Do you prefer to do makeup or no makeup?
I've always been a hair and makeup girl. I
Really?
my kids, yes, my kids, I always put lipstick on even before I leave. If I have nothing else on, I have lipstick. And they would be little. I'd be toting three little boys, 5 and under, all three of them. And I'd be like, "Whoa, lipstick, Natalie. Yes, lipstick for sure."
And are you a dressed up kind of girl or like sweats and t-shirt kind of girl?
I overdress for my job in education.
Everything.
Let's just put it that way. I
There
just
is nothing
I
wrong
always
with that.
No, there's not. I always just like to be put together. But then again, I don't know if that comes from the dance background, right? So
Right.
much in front of people, so much performance. So I sometimes wonder if that's why. But if you looked at my sister and I, we are complete opposites. So I'm the hair and makeup girl for sure. And I overdo it probably and just wanting
But
to
that's
look
probably why you do
together.
makeup too. Okay, my neighbors are starting their
Yes.
party, so if you can hear the music, I'm sorry. Oh,
Okay.
it's I can hear it.
I
Yeah,
don't hear it.
but the dance, I'm sure, because when you're on
I think
stage,
so.
you're in hair and makeup really, really young, and you're just like,
Yes.
okay, this makes me feel happy. So
Yes.
that's your happy place. All right.
Yeah.
Do you prefer flats or heels?
Heels.
Really? Gosh. Okay. You're the glam girl. I'm just like, yeah, no, please let me not
And
ever
I'm a
be
mom
glam.
of boys. That's what's even funnier about that. I do have a stepdaughter, so she came into my life when she was in junior high, but raising the boys, I just would buy my nickname is Sparkles because I would try to find everything with glitter and glitz and sequins because I was always dressing little boys, which I love.
There you go. But
Yeah.
what actually a lot of my friends are the same way, like my pageant friends that one of my best pageant friends has three boys, and she's just like, one of them likes to wear heels, and that's okay.
I do have
She never discouraged it. I was like, oh, we gotta be, we gotta be. That's
I
awesome.
did catch my older son when he was like, I think it was right after my stroke because he was old enough to be able to stand fairly comfortably, but he had on like my heels, just they must have been from when I mean, they were very casual pumps, but he had them on. He had his, pull up on and just a shirt.
Doing
I
his
do
thing.
have that picture still, so I can use that later in life.
Ah, there you go. It will come back to haunt
That's
him. Yes,
right.
there you go. All right, awesome. All right,
Mhm.
so is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you'd like to share? And then how do we follow your journey?
So you can follow my journey on Instagram and Facebook at Mrs. Midwest International. You can also visit my website, nataliepoli.com. And I also now have a podcast called Stroke of Insight. It is on Apple and Google Podcast as well as Spotify. And the reason I created the podcast was to take the attention off myself and my story and be able to share stories of survival from infants that are now adults and can talk a little bit about their story. I have talked with organizational leaders and physicians. So if you have an opportunity to check out the podcast Stroke of Insight, and just something I'd like to share is I ask that everyone just keep Ukraine in their prayers. There is obviously much more going on there than here with us tonight, but I think it's just a gentle reminder that real things happen and to put whatever we think we're going through today in perspective and also to know you're loved. I see a lot on social media, and I think that a lot of people really live by what they see. And sometimes you just need to turn it off. But if you're someone that's in doubt today of how special and loved you are, know that you are special and you are loved. Mental health
Thank
is a real thing.
It is, and we in the pageant world are still reeling quite a bit, and um, our loss is real. And I think that we're all coming to grips with it, which is the reason that on Pageantry Now we've been doing Real Talk every day in February with
Hmm.
my Go Rat as well,
I love
because
it.
I want people to share their real stories and not be afraid. When Pageantry
Yeah.
Now started, we literally an hour every night at 8 o'clock, I went live, and whether there was anybody there to talk to or not, I just did. And we ended up having a pretty significant following of people that knew nothing about pageantry, but they logged in to see this crazy lady wearing a crown to find out what the hell she was talking about tonight. So, um,
Well, you yourself are an inspiration, Stacy. You do a lot for not only the pageant world, but also survivors like me, and that does not go unnoticed. So thank you so much for being a voice when others can't.
we appreciate you sharing your story and being part of this experience, and I'm always grateful for all the title holders that I get to know, because your stories are important, and it's important that we not see just the moment you get crowned and the moment that you crown your successor. There's a lot that goes on in between that, and before that and beyond that. And that's really what Pageantry Now is about, is being able to share those stories. So thank you for being so kind and sharing yours. We appreciate it.
Well, thank
All right.
you.
Hold tight. Let me wrap up the show,
Okay.
and then I we will go from there. So hang tight, okay? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate everybody out there. We're grateful for all of you. If you haven't already, please like, follow, and subscribe. You know how to do all of those things. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And then, of course, you can always follow me every night on Instagram at some point for the next couple of days. I'll be doing Real Talk, and you can just come on. No hair, no makeup done. Just be yourself. I'm doing it every night in my pajamas pretty much, but be part of the conversation. We need to, especially because of the pandemic, we need to really open up those lines of communication and learn how that we can be more of ourselves on social media. So thank you so much. Thank you to Natalie for being here. Thank you to all of our crownies. We're grateful for all of you, and we'll see you guys next time. That's a wrap.